My fellow Americans, tonight I want to speak with you about our nation's unprecedented response to the coronavirus outbreak that started in China and is now spreading throughout the world. Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic. We have been in frequent contact with our allies, and we are marshaling the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect the American people. This is the most aggressive and comprehensive effort to confront a foreign virus in modern history. I am confident that by counting and continuing to take these tough measures, we will significantly reduce the threat to our citizens, and we will ultimately and expeditiously defeat this virus.
2020 became a year defined by crisis and controversy, with Donald Trump at its epicenter. As a novel virus swept across the globe, Trump's presidency was thrust into the role of managing a once-in-a-century health emergency. Trump's initial response included taking decisive action by restricting travel from China early on, a move aimed at preventing the spread of the virus to the United States. He communicated directly with the public, often optimistic about America's ability to overcome the challenge. His administration then launched Operation Warp Speed, an ambitious program to accelerate vaccine development. Trump's goal was clear: bring vaccines to the market in record time. This initiative was a resounding success. By the end of 2020, both Pfizer and Moderna had developed vaccines with over 90% efficacy, a testament to the administration's commitment to scientific advancement and public health. Trump's public health response was characterized by daily press briefings where he provided updates, shared the latest scientific findings, and engaged directly with the public. These briefings became a platform for transparency during a time of uncertainty. Amidst the chaos of the pandemic, Donald Trump's narrative on its origins was bold and unfiltered. He often referred to it as the China virus or Kung flu, terms that sparked intense debate. While many criticized these labels for being racially charged, to others, Trump's direct naming reflected an unapologetic acknowledgement of where the virus was believed to have originated.
Okay, why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? There are reports of dozens of incidents of bias against Chinese Americans in this country. Your own aide, Secretary Azar, says he does not use this term. He says ethnicity does not cause the virus. Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China. That's why. Comes from China. I want to be accurate.
About Chinese Americans
please, John.
In this country?
Please.
The aides behind you. Are you comfortable with this term?
I have great love for all of the people from our country. But as you know, China tried to say at one point, maybe they stopped now, that it was caused by American soldiers. That can't happen. It's not going to happen. Not as long as I'm president. It comes from China.
For Trump's base, this was seen as a refreshing break from what they perceived as overly cautious political correctness. His candidness about calling it the China virus was perceived by some as a raw truth, a straightforward approach to a subject treated with kid gloves by others. While health experts warned against stigmatization, Trump's terminology became a rallying cry for those who felt it was about time to speak plainly about the source of the global crisis.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if everyday Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world, and maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But you pointed to me. I have two questions, Mr. President.
Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish,
Okay.
but can I ask you
Ladies
a question,
and gentlemen,
please?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Trump's rhetoric in this light was not just about assigning blame, but about cutting through what some viewed as excessive diplomacy in international relations during a health emergency. It was a narrative that, for a segment of the population, resonated as a moment of unvarnished honesty in an era where many believed truth was often cloaked behind political agendas. In terms of public health measures, Trump supported a variety of strategies, from encouraging the use of therapeutics to promoting economic reopening plans, navigating the fine balance between health and economic stability. As the election approached, Trump's campaign highlighted his pre-COVID economic achievements and his rapid response to the virus, including the swift development of vaccines. The debates focused on how to move forward from the crisis. In our exploration of the Trump era's most defining moments, the George Floyd incident emerges as a flashpoint, igniting discussions on race, justice, and civil unrest. Floyd's passing, while initially painted as a stark example of police brutality, was later complicated by findings, including an autopsy report indicating a lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. This complexity did not diminish the outcry over his death, but added layers to the national conversation on systemic issues and individual actions. The protests that followed, under the umbrella of Black Lives Matter, while starting with calls for justice, soon escalated into widespread riots, leading to monumental property damage, with estimates reaching billions of dollars across affected cities. Amidst this chaos, a tragic reminder of the human cost was the death of a black police officer, David Dorn, a retired St. Louis police captain, killed while trying to protect a pawn shop during the riots. His death, alongside over 25 others with thousands more injured, highlighted the violence and division that marked this period. Furthermore, the legal aftermath saw numerous cases against rioters being dismissed by Democratic district attorneys, stirring debate over accountability and the rule of law. This segment of Trump's presidency, therefore, not only reflects on the immediate impacts of Floyd's death, but also on the broader, enduring questions about justice, governance, and societal healing. In the midst of nationwide protests sparked by the death of George Floyd, Washington, D.C. witnessed a particularly tense moment outside the White House. As the evening of May 29, 2020 unfolded, what began as a demonstration for justice and against police brutality escalated. The crowd, initially peaceful, grew in size and intensity, with some protesters clashing with police, attempting to breach barricades and hurling objects toward the White House. The situation outside became volatile enough to prompt an unprecedented security measure. As the chants and the chaos outside grew louder, Secret Service agents responsible for the protection of the president made a swift decision. President Donald Trump, along with First Lady Melania Trump and their son Barron, were briefly moved to the White House's underground bunker, a secure facility designed for use during national emergencies like terrorist attacks. This bunker, previously used on September 11, 2001 by Vice President Dick Cheney, was where the president and his family were taken for less than an hour, as reported by various sources. The move was a precautionary measure, taken out of an abundance of caution to ensure the safety of the president and his family. While officials later stated there was no immediate threat to their physical safety, the decision underscored the heightened tensions of that evening. Following this incident, Trump commended the Secret Service for their response, tweeting about the security measures in place and how he felt safe within the fortified mansion. The event became emblematic of the broader unrest in the country, highlighting not only the depth of public outrage, but also the extraordinary measures taken to protect the nation's leaders during a time of civil unrest. In the wake of widespread protests and riots associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, which led to significant property damage and calls for police reform, Donald Trump expressed deep concerns over the role of Antifa, a loosely organized, far-left, anti-fascist political activist movement. Trump characterized Antifa as a significant threat to law and order, often conflating their actions with the broader protests. He argued that Antifa was instrumental in escalating peaceful demonstrations into violent confrontations, a narrative that sparked a national debate over the nature of civil unrest, the right to protest, and the methods of law enforcement response. Trump's administration considered designating Antifa as a terrorist organization, a move that was controversial and criticized for potentially stifling legitimate protest and free speech. This stance, however, resonated with his base, who saw in it a firm commitment to restoring order and protecting property and lives amidst what they perceived as chaos. The debate around Antifa's role and Trump's response highlighted deep divisions in American society over how to address systemic issues of race, justice, and law enforcement, with Trump's approach emphasizing a hardline stance against what he viewed as radical activism. It's certainly worth mentioning the Hunter Biden laptop incident, as it involves a laptop left at a Delaware computer repair shop, later proven to indeed belong to Hunter Biden, son of President Joe Biden. In October 2020, shortly before the U.S. presidential election, the New York Post reported on its contents, which included emails and personal data. These emails suggested business dealings and communications that raised questions about potential conflicts of interest, particularly regarding Hunter's activities in Ukraine and China during his father's vice presidency. Initially, there was skepticism about the laptop's authenticity, but subsequent investigations, including one by the New York Times, confirmed the veracity of many of the details. The contents of the laptop have become a focal point for discussions on political ethics, foreign influence, and the personal conduct of political figures' relatives, although no clear legal wrongdoing by Joe Biden has been established from the material. The 2020 presidential debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden were not just about policy. They became battlegrounds for personal attacks and allegations that would reverberate through the election cycle. The first debate of the 2020 presidential race, moderated by Chris Wallace, was more than a policy discussion. It was a clash of personalities and visions for America. Trump, with his aggressive style, and Biden, aiming to project calm leadership, squared off on issues ranging from the economy to racial justice.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that,
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his FBI, FBI director said.
The debate saw frequent interruptions, with Trump often talking over both Biden and Wallace, leading to moments of chaos.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist.
Radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Who's
on your list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
During the first presidential debate, Trump raised concerns about the integrity of the electoral process, particularly focusing on what he perceived as potential fraud through mail-in voting.
As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that.
On healthcare, Trump attacked Obamacare, while Biden defended it, promising to expand it. The debate also touched on the handling of the COVID-19 crisis, with Trump touting the economy's quick recovery and Biden questioning the administration's preparedness. The evening was marked by personal exchanges, with Trump questioning Biden's son Hunter's business dealings in China, and Biden hitting back at Trump's taxes and personal conduct. This debate set the tone for a campaign filled with acrimony, where policy was frequently overshadowed by personal barbs, setting a contentious stage for the election to come. The second debate in the 2020 presidential race, which was actually intended to be moderated by Steve Scully, was canceled due to President Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis. In its place, both candidates participated in separate town hall events on the same evening. Trump, in his town hall, emphasized the rapid development of vaccines through Operation Warp Speed. Biden, in his event, criticized the overall management of the health crisis, advocating for a more unified national strategy. Trump reiterated concerns about election fraud, particularly with mail-in voting, while Biden affirmed his commitment to accepting the election results if they were legally certified. Trump defended his pre-COVID economic achievements, focusing on tax cuts and deregulation. Biden outlined plans to raise taxes on the wealthy to fund social programs like healthcare and education. Trump criticized Biden's and his family's China connections, whereas Biden accused Trump of being too lenient with China, especially in trade relations and the origins of the virus. Biden presented his plan for combating climate change, while Trump continued to highlight the economic impact of environmental regulations. Biden spoke on systemic racism and proposed police reform. Trump, on the other hand, focused on his criminal justice reforms and support for law enforcement. The separate events provided a platform for each candidate to engage with undecided voters directly, showcasing their distinct visions for America amidst a highly polarized election season. The final debate of the 2020 presidential campaign, moderated by Kristen Welker from NBC News, was a pivotal moment in an election cycle steeped in controversy and division. Taking place at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, it was the last chance for President Donald Trump and Joe Biden to make their case to the American electorate.
Good evening from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump.
The debate commenced with a focus on America's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, an issue that had dominated the year.
Let's start, and we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe and many other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine.
220,000 Americans dead. You hear nothing else I say tonight. Hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially. Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
Amidst policy discussions, Trump brought up what he described as the laptop from hell, referring to the alleged laptop of Hunter Biden, which had become a focal point of controversy.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up questions.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please.
Because look,
very quickly.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race.
Trump referenced emails and photos from the laptop, suggesting unethical business dealings involving Hunter Biden and potentially Joe Biden. The New York Post had published these allegations, leading to a media frenzy. Biden's dismissal was based on a letter from intelligence officials suggesting the narrative had the markers of Russian disinformation, though the FBI later confirmed they were examining the laptop's contents. The story's coverage by major news outlets, including NBC, was contentious and often dismissed, fueling debates about media censorship and bias. It's worth mentioning that the laptop story itself, if not falsely attributed to disinformation, would have most likely led Trump to victory in the 2020 election. There have been numerous polls done in regards to some of the independent and even Democrat voter base, as high as 14% polled, confirming had they known the truth they would not have voted or voted differently. This debate encapsulated the contentious nature of the election, where policy often took a back seat to personal accusations and narratives of scandal. The Hunter Biden laptop story became a symbol of the broader narrative warfare that characterized this election, with each side accusing the other of misinformation and electoral interference. On election night 2020, the nation watched with bated breath as the results began to roll in. President Donald Trump, confident in his campaign's momentum, declared early victories in several states, including Florida, where he had expanded his margin of victory from 2016.
The results tonight have been phenomenal, and we are getting ready. I mean, literally, we were just all set to get outside and just celebrate something that was so beautiful, so good, such a vote, such a success. The citizens of this country have come out in record numbers. This is a record. There's never been anything like it. To support our incredible movement, we won states that we weren't expected to win. Florida, we didn't win it. We won it by a lot.
Indeed, the initial counts reflected a strong performance for Trump, particularly in states with high in-person voting. This phenomenon was dubbed the Red Mirage, as these early results were predominantly from Election Day votes, which leaned Republican. The night of November 3, 2020 started with President Donald Trump showing strong leads in several key battleground states, creating a narrative of a possible landslide victory. However, as the night progressed into the early hours of the morning, the situation began to change dramatically. The counting of mail-in ballots, which had been anticipated due to their significant use during the pandemic, introduced a surge of votes for Joe Biden, particularly in urban centers known for their Democratic leanings. These ballots were processed and counted late, leading to what seemed like an overwhelming majority for Biden in these batches. Reports of these ballot dumps saw percentages for Biden reaching into the high 90s in some instances, which sparked intense scrutiny and skepticism. Social media platforms became forums for conspiracy theories, with claims of ballot dumps suggesting the process was anything but ordinary. These allegations, while lacking evidence, gained traction and fueled a narrative of electoral manipulation.
Good evening. Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long, but who knew we were going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote, it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are. We believe one of the nets has suggested we've already won Arizona, but we're confident about Arizona. That's a turnaround.
We also just called it for Minnesota, and we're still in the game in Georgia, although that's not one we expected. And we're feeling real good about Wisconsin and Michigan. And by the way, it's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania.
By morning, the initial leads for Trump had been overtaken by Biden's tally from the mail-in votes. The phenomenon of these late-counted ballots, especially those showing nearly unanimous support for one candidate, was unprecedented in its scale and led to widespread questioning of the election's integrity. The narrative of the 2020 election night quickly evolved into a tale of two realities: one of celebration for the newfound leads by Biden, and another of disbelief and suspicion among those who saw the vote shifts as statistically improbable. This situation not only highlighted the procedural complexities of vote counting in the U.S., but also underscored the deep divisions, setting the stage for legal challenges and a national debate on election integrity.